The internet. Unless you've quite literally been living under a rock for the last 2 decades, you're at least familiar with the term. If I had to guess, you've used it before too. Actually, you're probably watching this video on the internet right now. As with any amazing tool though, issues have arisen since its creation. There are endless problems, some more severe than others, ranging from internet trolling to illicit activity. The issue we're going to talk about today though encompasses all of the internet. And that issue is net neutrality. There's a buzzword you heard before. It's not just a political point of contention that people throw around though. It's a shockingly important part of our day-to-day lives. The idea of net neutrality is simple. Internet service providers, or ISPs for short, are the companies who provide us consumers with access to the internet. The concept of net neutrality states that ISPs have a duty to provide the internet indiscriminately. That is, they don't get to choose what websites their customers can access, nor do they control the speeds of loading certain sites. This concept, though, as with everything else in the past years, has been highly politicized. In general, liberals tend to support net neutrality while conservatives don't. This boiled over in 2018 when then-President Trump appointed former Verizon lawyer Ajit Pai as chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC. With the appointment of Pai, the commission was a majority conservatives 3-2. When it came to a vote on the future of net neutrality in the United States, the majority conservative board voted to repeal restrictions. So, now that we understand the idea of net neutrality and also know about the recent situation, why does it matter? Does it even matter to anyone besides the ISPs and lawmakers? The answer is yes, and it has huge implications for us, average people. First of all, without net neutrality, the entire internet could be slowed down in general. With ISPs having the free reign to do whatever they want, it would be easy for them to slow down every website unless you pay premium rates, which, sure, there are different internet plans now, but it would be even more severe. Second, there's the issue of censorship. This is already an issue on the internet, and by adding ISPs into the mix, they could easily censor whatever they want. For example, if the CEO of my ISP is a raging liberal, maybe they'd restrict my access to GOP.com. Or maybe my ISP is taking under-the-table money from the coal industry, so they restrict my access to a Democratic website, or a Sierra Club, or Tesla, the electric car company. And then maybe once I'm fed up with all these restrictions, I decide to change ISPs. The issue is though, when I go to a competitor's website, it won't load. Or, even worse, if an ISP were in league with a certain school east of Indiana, they might throttle information about the best university in the world. This potential for censorship is one of the biggest issues in a country without net neutrality. No net neutrality would be a huge threat to small businesses too. The internet is a small business's best friend, allowing them to advertise, sell their products, place orders, obtain supplies, connect with customers, and so much more. The issue is, a small business wouldn't have the funds to pay ISPs to load their sites. Amazon and Google have deep pockets though, so they'd be fine. This could lead to a total kill-off of small businesses, creating even larger monopolies in the market. Another effect would be a lack of reliability on the internet. If your ISP only shows you what they're paid to show you, who knows what information you're missing? This could lead to easy radicalization or just a lack of faith in what you see on the internet. Your internet use could descend into a giant echo chamber as you only see things that your ISP wants you to see. Now, there's a counter-argument why there shouldn't be net neutrality. And it's because ISPs are corporations, private corporations, whose goal is to make money. And net neutrality restricts these companies' abilities to compete with another. This fits in with the free market idea harkened by conservatives. This competitorship would allow companies to compete more freely, which would trickle down and help the customers as the companies undercut each other's prices to gain more customers. This is a fair point, and it might be convincing if it weren't for the fact that in the 2 years after Obama-era net neutrality laws were strengthened, ISPs were more profitable than the previous years. Another argument for a world without net neutrality would be that some services should receive higher priority in internet speeds. An example I heard from Dr. Cliff Lampy, a University of Michigan school information professor, is for internet surgeries. Robotic surgeries have been getting more and more useful and common in the past years, and the robots doing surgery are controlled using the internet. As Dr. Lampy said, and I quite agree, I'd rather have the robotic arm cutting me open and operating on me have access to higher speeds than me on my laptop watching Netflix at home. Another example could be 911 operators should have faster speeds than the average Joe, or so on. If we look outside the US, we see it's not just a national problem. Squid Game, the current #1 show on Netflix in the US, is also a hit in the country it was created, South Korea. Such a smashing hit, in fact, the South Korean ISP SK Broadband is suing Netflix because customers streaming Netflix are using so much bandwidth, and SK Broadband has to pay for that, in addition to higher maintenance costs attributed to such high volume. Netflix, of course, disagrees and says they're just doing their job, and SK Broadband should do their job of providing internet. And then another issue that could arise without net neutrality regards people already at a disadvantage in our society, from minorities to those economically disadvantaged. A great example of this became clear during the pandemic. There are many stories about families who can't afford at-home internet parking outside McDonald's from 8 to 3 so their kids can attend online school. This is not an ideal situation for learning, and it's also not ideal for a parent who now has to drive their kids to a fast food restaurant every day and sit there with them, and the parent likely needs to work to make a living too. There's little reason to operate without net neutrality. Doing so would only help ISPs and the players in our country with deep pockets. It could lead to monopolies, censorship, misinformation, hiked up rates, and more. Because of this, there's even been a recent push to regard the internet as a utility, like gas or electricity. In our increasingly internet-dependent world, it's not fair for ISPs to be able to control what we see, hear, and buy. It's also not fair for only the affluent to afford high speeds and only the big companies be able to pay ISPs. The government should keep net neutrality around for the future of our country.